Thinking back to my mother particularly, you know, she looked after my father, and then because when I came along it was destiny to be a fisherman, and it wasn't until I was into my teens and at school that then father said he didn't want me to be a fisherman. It wasn't the thing. I think he possibly had a fear. He'd been through the war, he'd been fishing in the Arctic, he'd seen quite a lot of unsettling things, and that was possibly his way, but I was adamant that I went to sea. So instead of being a fisherman, he sent me off into the Merchant Navy, and that was when I realised what my mother used to do for him, and the funny little things that I'd never really noticed because it was part of natural life. She never washed on the day he went away. She never went to the front door to see him off. That would be done somewhere in the house, but certainly not at any door. And of course we had my mother's mother living with us, who was very, very superstitious. But she never spoke about these things. And it wasn't until much, much later, when I was at sea myself, that I realised how many seamen were superstitious. The master on this cargo ship I was on, he didn't like green. He didn't like sailing on Friday. Purely, I think that some of that comes in with religion. Good Friday was a nominal day in most religious people's mind, and that was maybe the thing. The colour of green, I don't know why, it never came out until much, much later in my life. We had green undercoat for some of the steel work. It was immediately dispatched ashore, and this stuff come back which was labelled silver chromate. Another quite unusual thing. And the more he came out with things, I did regard him as highly superstitious. You could sing all you wanted, but anybody that whistled was frowned on. And in fact, I was in one ship and I was on watch. I was third hand, and one of the deckies had come up, mugs of tea in his hand, whistling through his teeth, not loudly, not other than sort of, and the skipper literally leapt on him, and he was told there and then that when we got back into Hull he could pack his gear and go ashore. And it was another thing that came up, that once a fisherman's bag was packed, nothing was ever taken out until he got to sea. And of course the children in the family knew this, and some of the most wonderful little things and drawings and pictures and bits of what we couldn't make sense of, but he could, came out of the bag. And
well, so to as you say then, to ensure a good catch, were there things like, they talk about making offerings, tip a bit of whiskey in the sea, or throw a coin in, or put salt on the nets? Did you see any of those sort of things?
When we came out the lock pits, if you were up on the whaleback, it was prominent that the lads would be, still in the suits, the rest of it they hadn't got changed, and they'd rake in and there'd be a handful of change and throw it just in that little area as you came out the lock pit of St Andrew's Dock. That was quite a common. They were buying next trip's good luck. And then there was always the sceptic. Oh, that never worked with me. And it's funny enough that we still, got the news. Sparks would come down with a bit of a news sheet. We got the horses for the gamblers. We played dominoes. And yet I'd sailed in one ship that, you couldn't have any of them. Them's God's instruments and the devil's instruments. It's the religious side comes in quite a lot on a lot of superstitions. And again, I've got one there. I've got my gold cross. I lost it that many times. I had it tattooed on my chest. Didn't do quite all I expected, but again, I'm here. I've sailed a few million miles, I would imagine. And I haven't had any real hairy escape. One or two, because somebody did say to me, "Aren't you ever frightened going to sea?" And I said, "I wouldn't go if I was frightened." And I said, it's surprising how many atheists I met that when weather was bad, they were the first on the knees. And at one time my father, he went off to be a fishing master on a Dutch trawler, and he said that broke my heart, that there it was on good fishing, and at Saturday midnight with all the net, and we couldn't shoot it away till Sunday midnight. And he said that was hard luck. But again, that's the religious side. It's up to people, I think, that can say, right, well, I believe that bit, that's superstition, and that bit's religion, because they are tied together. I mean, lots of things that people say about, you know, the devil's toys and things, they're superstitions. And I've always been one that when it comes to charities, things like that, giving gifts, giving the other, fishermen are among the most abundant people. And to me, that's maybe one of the things I'm proud to be a fisherman. But I do think, you know, some of the superstitions come from, oh, well, we had a good trip that trip, didn't we? What we do, what, you know, also, well, Hull City won, or something like that. Oh, well, next time they won, we'll have another good trip. It comes in from somebody's very, very quick mind. What happened on that trip? We did so-and-so, didn't it? Oh, so-and-so had a green jumper on, or a yellow jumper, or it's, you know, silly little things that come in, but they grow. And, oh, yeah, it was good weather, we did so-and-so. And it's one of them things. And a lot of skippers, I mean, I have all my father's logbooks and his diaries, and I read through them, and I see some of the superstitions. Oh, we caught so-and-so at this time 2 years ago, you know, and we saw so-and-so, there was an iceberg there, we towed around it, and we got a bag of fish. And to some people, the iceberg will then become a good luck thing. And it possibly had nothing to do with it. But again, it's a well-proven fact that fish do go under the ice.